wrapping up the G7 summit. Good morning, and thanks for checking in.
Good morning, guys.
All right, so let's first start with the world national news that President Obama announces that the world leaders are rattled by Donald Trump. How did he say it, and how did that come up in conversation?
Well, President Obama has actually pretty successfully avoided wading into American politics during this trip, but today he held a brief media availability with reporters. Reporters asked what world leaders were telling him. He's often talked about saying he's had these conversations with world leaders who are concerned. Today he said that they are very surprised by the fact that he's the presumptive nominee, and also they're rattled by him, and that they say he's more concerned about tweets than actual policy about changing the world and protecting the U.S.
Was the question asked by an American journalist or a foreign journalist?
It was asked by an American journalist. I mean, everywhere we go, I think people want to ask the president what international leaders think about the election. So not a huge surprise that it's one of our own asking about that.
Sure, certainly understandable. Okay, so he's off to Hiroshima today, or what's the story there?
So he's actually today, really more tomorrow for me, maybe today for you, since we have a little time difference, but he'll be at Hiroshima early tomorrow morning around 4 or 5 a.m., probably your time, and it's going to be a really big event. I mean, he's the first American president to visit that site where the U.S. decided to drop that atomic bomb over 70 years ago. He said that he's not going to apologize for that decision by Harry Truman, but he is going to use it as a way to further make his case for ridding the world of nuclear weapons.
How has the reaction been in Japan and from the people that he's going to visit such a historic site?
It's obviously going to be a really emotional moment for the people of Japan. There are some people who expected an apology, but there's others that just see the visit itself, that's huge progress. I mean, it's been 7 decades for an American president to have the opportunity to come, and he is the first one to actually take it. So I think that both sides. I think that there are some people who want an apology, but also some people who just see this as enormous progress.
Yeah, so outside of the fact that Donald Trump has rattled the world leaders, what else is coming out of this G7 summit that is actual news?
Well, the leaders are discussing a range of topics from the global economy to maritime security, a lot of issues having to do with the South China Sea. Tomorrow we expect them probably to talk a little bit more about terrorism. You saw that really interesting press conference yesterday. I've never seen anything like it, where the Japanese Prime Minister basically lectured President Obama about that U.S. former Marine who allegedly murdered a Japanese woman. That's making a lot of waves over here. But really the administration is just pushing the fact that this trip highlights that strong alliance with Japan that was unimaginable 70 years ago.
Yeah, that you're talking about that U.S. contractor that committed that crime that President Obama then had to sort of answer for. Also, to follow up on his Vietnam visit, didn't China sort of come out and say, hey, not so fast with Vietnam?
Yes, so China came out. They had an editorial in their Communist Party newspaper that said that the president's risking creating a tinderbox of conflict. Secretary of State John Kerry came and talked to us reporters a few days ago and said this is not about China at all. We respect that they're making these claims to the South China Sea, but we want them to resolve all of this peacefully, not aggressively. So the U.S. isn't exactly taking China's bait. They're still saying that they were there doing this to help their ally Vietnam, and that they weren't factoring into this decision at all.
Arlette Saenz with President Obama in Japan with the G7 meeting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
709 Big 550 KTRS. Yeah, that was pretty unbelievable.